How you doing this morning?
Good, Chris. How are you, been?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Sun shines out.
Beautiful day.
I keep seeing people catching fish, and remember when we were talking a while back that with the temps that the fish were moving out of the area, they seem to have just returned, and everybody seems to be catching them. Is that right?
That's absolutely true. Fishing right now is spectacular on the big lake.
That's good to hear. And are they catching big fish, or is it just a lot of smaller, medium-sized fish? What's happening out there?
We're not seeing the size we did maybe 2 years ago, but the bigger fish are starting to show up now. So we weighed a 33-pounder a few days ago, and that's the biggest one we've seen since June. We've only weighed two 30-pounders this year, which is down, but we're seeing a lot of 25, 26, 27-pounders, which are really nice fish.
That's great. A good eating there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feed the family and friends.
Yep.
Is there any sort of formula or result or anything like that in regards to why the fish aren't growing as big, or are we just not catching them? I guess would be the question, or is it just truly they're just not as big this year?
Well, I think they're just not as big this year, and there's going to be a million opinions why.
Okay.
We have plenty of bait fish, so I don't think that would be it. It's hard to say, to be honest with you. So, it used to be, we're not getting any big fish because there was no bait fish. But now there's actually a lot of bait fish. Okay. So I don't know why we're not seeing bigger fish. I mean, 25, 26 pounders are still pretty nice fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, 1 year we weighed 84 fish over 30 pounds.
Wow.
And this year we've weighed 2 so far. So
all right. So drastic difference.
It's definitely different. Yep.
And that is good sample rates as well, because if you're like, hey, we had a lot, 80 plus fish, and now we're at 2, that's some results that things have changed out there a bit.
Right.
When you talk about bait fish, what are we talking about there?
Alewives mostly.
Okay.
Yep. So, and they might still have a few smelt around to eat. The lake trout, they eat the gobies. But mostly for the kings, it's alewives.
Okay. And Hudson is making a little noise over there.
He's chewing on my shoe. Not on my shoe, but he's pressed up against my shoe right now, chewing on something.
On his hard toy. We got him some, he was eating through those little stuffed animals from Bark Box so quickly that we moved him to the hard toy. And these things are like made of solid plastic. And so it's taken him, probably 6 months to even gnaw into it as much. But
that's good. Save you a little money.
For sure. But he likes you. He always gravitates towards you when you come into the studio. So Hudson is hanging out with us. Randy had a chance to meet your parents a few weeks ago, about a month ago. They stopped by the radio station. That was pretty cool.
There's something else.
No, they love you, man. And which is great. Like they were, hey, do you know who we are? And then they said, Dureski. And I had to think a moment, like, oh my gosh, you're Randy's Randy's parents. It was pretty cool to see them. Captain Chuck's too, that's where you're shopping. And my question to you is, have you seen better than normal numbers when it's come to sales and people coming through the door and such this year?
Yeah, sales numbers are good. We started a little slow in the spring. It was pretty good, later in the spring, and then we had a little bit of a lull, which we always do with the salmon. And then now salmon fishing is so good that the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we've really been rocking and rolling.
That's good.
So it's good, yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of businesses say, it feels like it's pre-pandemic or better going into this in the fall season. So hopefully we're seeing that. We've seen a lot of visitors in the area, and really there is only one place to shop, and that is Captain Chuck's too, for all of your bait, tackle, all those needs. And we're going to be talking about hunting season before you know it.
It's right around the corner, less than 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And one big thing this year with the Badger paused for the rest of the season, that has opened up some good fishing and not having to avoid moving back and forth, right?
Right. That's going to make the guys that are out in Pure Marquette Lake jigging very, very happy.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's still barges that come through now and then, but it's not every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever it is with the Badger.
Yeah.
So guys that are out there first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening, they don't have to worry about it.
Do you think we've seen more fishing out there because of that?
Not yet, but
okay.
It's just the jigging part is just getting started.
Okay.
I mean, they're catching a few, but the full push of salmon aren't in PM Lake yet.
Okay.
So we need a little bit more weather. The later in the year it gets, and I was going to refer to this too when we were talking about the 30 pounders.
Mm-hmm.
We get the majority of our 30 pounders in mid to late August.
Okay.
We won't see 80 again just because we're not on that pace, but I'm sure we'll probably see 20 to 30.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
It takes those fish. A 25-pound fish in the spring is a 30 to 31 or 2-pound fish in the fall. They put on that much weight.
So we'll wrap up the season maybe at 50% of that number, a third
maybe
of the
30%.
number.
Yeah, I would say 30%
Yeah.
probably. We'll probably see 20 to 30 kings, over that 30-pound range. And we do know of a few more that have been caught. They just weren't weighed with us.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things, if they're not in a contest or whatever, a lot of times they won't weigh them, come in and weigh them.
So when do people move into PM? Is that going to be like in the next week or two, or closer to September? You think?
No, they're starting right now.
Okay.
You'll see a few boats out there. There's a few guys trolling, a few guys jigging, and they're getting a couple fish here and there. The weather, the north winds always help. It pushes that colder water in and pushes those fish into the lake. And then as the season just gets later and later and later and that water cools down more, it's going to push those fish up when they're getting ready to spawn and go into the rivers when they really, really do good in Pure Marquette Lake.
Does that mean people start moving off of Lake Michigan here shortly, or are you still fishing out there?
You're still fishing out there. What you'll see is you'll see a lot more guys that don't have the bigger boats. They might just have a 14-foot aluminum or 12-foot aluminum. Now that gives them a chance to go out and catch salmon.
Okay.
So we actually just weighed in a fish this morning. That's our new leader on the leaderboard, and he fishes out of a either 14 or 16-foot aluminum boat, and he's on right now leading the Big King Bonanza.
All right, there you go.
So don't be afraid to get in the Bonanza. Being a small boat.
So it's not the size of the boat. It's the way you fish, right?
Exactly. It's the way you use your rods.
Absolutely. Randy from Captain Chuck's 2 here in the studio. Sorry, I just had to drop that.
We had to go there.
Anyway, what about lures, and what are we talking about?
Well, obviously the jigging guys are using a jig. Most of them are 2 ounces.
Okay.
They're a little bit different than what most people think of as a jig. They're basically a long, skinny spoon that's heavy, and what they do is they drop it to the bottom and usually come up like 1 crank, maybe a foot, and then they just fish them up and down and just up and down.
Okay.
And usually what'll happen is when you're going on that downfall, that salmon will either catch it on the downfall or as soon as you start to go back up, they'll grab it.
How deep is PM?
There's one hole in there that touches right about 50 foot, 49 foot, something like that.
Yeah.
But most of where the guys are fishing are 35 to 42 feet. So.
All right, and they're fishing all the way almost to the bottom, or no?
They'll drop it all the way to bottom.
Okay.
And then they usually come up like 1 crank to a foot, depending on the size of your reel. Depends on how much you get and retrieve.
Okay.
So usually it's a foot off the bottom, and then they just start from there.
All right, sounds good. Anything that we missed talking about this morning?
I don't think so.
All right, so you have a ton of jigs available for purchase, right?
A lot of jigs, yep.
Cost-wise, where do they range?
They run anywhere from $5.99 up to like $8 or $9.99.
Okay.
Just depending on the brand.
And you don't need any additional different reels or line or anything like that, right?
No, I mean, you got to have something heavier than you would, say, for pike or bass.
Okay.
Just because you're fishing with 20, 25-pound fish.
Okay.
And most of the ones that you catch jigging are going to be at least 20 pounds.
All right. What kind of line weight are we looking at then?
A lot of people use braid.
Okay.
So you can use a 20 or 30-pound braid. And the nice part about that is there's no stretch in it. So one, you can get a better hook set. And 2, it's thinner. So it's thinner like a monofilament. So you can put more line at a greater poundage on. So say you got a 30-pound mono versus a 30-pound braid.
Okay.
You might only get 50 yards of 30-pound mono on, but you probably get 150 of braid because it's so much thinner.
Wow. All right. So very good information there. How late are you open till this fall? Same times?
Yep. 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 7 a.m. till noon on Sunday.
All right. And if somebody wants to give you a call, what can they do?
Area code 231-843-4458.
All right, there you go. Randy from Captain Chuck's 2 live with us in the studio here on 102.7 WMOM and Hot Country Hits 99.9. If you missed any of this segment, check it out on our Facebook pages as well as our YouTube channel. Randy, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. Let's get back to the hits on Hot Country Hits 99.9. and 102.7 WMOM coming up. More music on the way. Taylor Swift up next on Mom FM.
We all know camping in Ludington is never fun if you get a bee sting, unless it's a